What's up, guys and girls? Today we're going to be talking about two different big philosophies that a lot of people have on food. That's right, food. And these are two philosophies I've grown up with, and we'll see how they clash and what is morally right. So the first philosophy is what I was grown up, and a lot of people were grown up with, and they were raised with this philosophy, which was pretty much whenever you had food and you tried to throw it away, or you were full and you didn't want to eat it, your parents would say something like, "You better finish all that. There's starving children in Africa." That's what my mom would always say, and I was surprised because there's actually a lot of different people of different racial backgrounds whose mom said the exact same thing. There's starving children in Africa, and even if I was full, even if I didn't like the food, I had to finish all of it because there were starving children in Africa. That's the thing my mom always used, but there's obviously plenty of other examples. Not too long ago, just in the last century, which is really just less than 100 years ago, there was something called the Holocaust, which was something where there's a lot of people who were starving to death. There was sons choking their fathers and fathers choking their sons for a last scrap of bread. And that bread was only there because these people were taunting these starving Jews and throwing down little pieces of bread to see them kill each other over it. That sort of stuff occurred during the Holocaust, which really wasn't that far ago. And basically, it's kind of scary to realize that all our abundance in food really comes from how sustainable and solid our whole economic system is. It's not because we're rich or anything like that. It's the system. If the system works well, we may be good for a little while. If it doesn't, another war could break loose, and who knows, we could end up in one of those scenarios once again. Anyhow, though, the other big philosophy is one where I experienced later in my life, and I saw other people do. I actually worked at a place where this occurred, and I'm not judging it. There's nothing wrong with it, but I saw people of varying ages order meals of food, whether it was hot dogs and a side of French fries, and they would take one bite, and then they'd say, "I'm done. I'm full. I don't want to eat anymore," and they'll throw the rest into the trash. Or the waiters were forced to throw the rest in the trash. Sometimes the waiters would be like, you could tell the waiters were kind of like pissed off at you because they grew up in the first philosophy, but that sort of stuff happened, and you didn't like it was a different sort of thing, and they just could do that, so they did do that, and they would order entire meals, and sometimes they would be full and they would literally just throw it all away. And I have really experienced a lot of this world, and I have sort of changed my views after, being in this world for quite a while, and my perspectives on what's right and wrong have changed on this sort of thing. Now, there's a huge difference, first off, in being grateful and not being grateful versus abundance and no abundance in food. So that's the big thing that people don't realize. There are people who take one bite and throw the rest away, and they're not grateful for their food. Is that morally wrong? One could argue that he's not as morally wrong as someone who kills and cheats and steals and robs others. However, some could argue that he's not morally wrong at all for throwing away this food because he earned the money to attain this food, and he's grateful for the food, but he's just chosen to spend the money which he rightfully earned on resources that he has chosen to throw away. Now, that's one way of looking at it that a lot of people don't think about. Most people assume the other thing, which is that people are not grateful for the food that they've eaten, and they have abundance of food. So that's the huge delineation that people fail to assume. It's that whether you have the abundance of food or not, or the abundance of resources to waste this food, you can't necessarily, that doesn't mean you're automatically ungrateful for the food, or that you're automatically grateful for the food. That's down to personal experiences in the past. Someone who's probably been poor or hungry or starving in the past, who's become rich or has a lot of money now is probably a lot more grateful, and um, he can show that by eating all his food, or he can show that in other ways by donating to charity. But as for food, he's decided to take one bite and throw it away for whatever reason, health reasons, because he hates the food, because he's full, whatever reason. And honestly, I think that's the huge delineation, because if you truly look at it, a lot of people fail to realize that there are a lot of little things that add up um, to a lot of money being wasted or thrown away pretty much in other practices, not just eating food. So the person who points the finger at the guy or girl or the rich person who takes a couple bites of food and then throws the whole meal away, he's probably the person who wastes money in potentially other ways. Whether it's he's the guy who keeps the car on for a very long time when he doesn't need to, and he just burns a lot of gas unnecessarily. There's plenty of people who cheat or rob or steal but get away from it because they're not doing it on a lower class level. They're doing it on a very higher upper class level in the workplace. So think of the white collar person who works at the office or is a head of a business who steals in different ways by fudging or changing how many hours he works or the company records, and he probably steals hundreds of thousands more than the low class robber who tries and steals from a convenience store. And yet who typically gets the blame and who typically gets caught? Well, we don't know who gets caught more, but most this society as a whole usually points the finger and puts a lot more shame and blame, and puts more emphasis on getting those lower class robbers in jail, even though there are plenty of people who either waste money or steal or cheat money in different ways and get away with it. And there's plenty of examples out there, not just stealing from a company as its CEO or leaving a car on. There's plenty of ways I see people wasting a lot of their money on stupid things. A lot of people just buy a lot of frivolous stuff, or they buy pointless stuff, or they just spend money on stuff they know that's pointless, that they don't use, to throw it away or give it away, or just literally give it away. And one could argue in certain aspects it's pretty much like throwing away food that you've chosen not to eat. Because think about it, what it is when you boil it down is resources which you've purchased with your money, which you have chosen to not use. And you can rightfully do that because it's your money that's done it. And that's the huge delineation that people don't make. A lot of people are like, oh, you're wasting all your food, how dare you? And it's right, because food is the difference is that food is an integral part, and it's symbolic, and that's why it represents a lot of cultural things such as starvation, and it's one thing that's just inherently by its nature and how it appears, it's much more harder to waste for most people. And yet it happens quite often. But from that different objective perspective, you realize, at least in my opinion, that there truly isn't that much of a disparity, because a lot of people waste their resources or throw away a lot of their resources in other ways, and logically it's their right to do so. Let's go to the other spectrum, where you have a lack of abundance of food, or a lack of abundance of money, and therefore a lack of abundance in capability of purchasing said food. And these two people are, whether you have that or not, that doesn't in reality tell you if you're morally or immorally wrong or right. Because think about it, well, some people who have the money or don't have the money to purchase extravagant things, whether it's expensive food or just food in general, they will still, whether they're poor, broke, or rich, both classes have chosen to waste their money. Poor people still, I see it still, they waste food, they buy fast food, and they throw some of it away as well. And so again, there's that delineation between being grateful for the food you have versus what you choose to do with the resources you have. And I think being grateful for it is more important. And in my opinion, in my lifestyle, I would try and eat everything I can, and that's my way of expressing gratefulness. But others can do it differently, um, even if it means wasting the food that they have by donating to charities or other methods. And to frown on someone just for throwing away their food is, it's slightly short-minded, and obviously, not completely wrong, because um, quite possibly they're not spending time to be grateful for anything they have, and slash or donating to charity or doing anything else. But in reality, is gratefulness in itself a morally wrong thing? Even that, it truly isn't when you really think about it. Whether you're grateful or not, it doesn't mean like you're wrong and you should be struck down by lightning. Gratefulness truly just gives you more appreciation in life, and in my opinion, by doing so, you get more out of life. You're more aware of your lifestyle, what you eat, and it just makes for a more satisfying and fulfilling and happier life. So it's more of a beneficial thing that a lot of people just get wrong. The person who's not grateful, he may or may not really ever experience that moment in the future where he gets his hard lesson, whether he goes bankrupt or something else happens, and he starves, and he really realizes that the value of food. Some people never ever go through that, and they go their whole life just throwing away food and so forth. And I mean, for them, it's not a problem. So it's really a very subjective thing, like many philosophies in nature and moral perspectives. And there's a lot of gray areas, and sometimes no right or wrong answer, as in this scenario. Finally, when we conclude with this topic, again, there's that delineation. This time threefold. There's the delineation between food, in terms of whether you have the abundance of resources to buy food or not, and how it doesn't really matter more moralistically. It's more so than that. And then there's that delineation of being grateful for the food, which I've also sort of noted can not matter depending on how you look at it. And so just to blur the line a little further for you, think about it this way. Let's say you're rich, or maybe you're not rich, but you can walk into a store, whether it's a fast food joint or a expensive 5-star gourmet restaurant, and you order a meal, and you think that's what you need just to be completely full. And your meal comes, and you realize it's very unhealthy, and it's a lot more food than you can eat. And you're in some scenario where it would be a complete hassle to take this food home to go or anything like that. Let's say you are a big time star, or just this is some restaurant far off 100 miles from somewhere, or you have some event like the Oscars or Grammys to go to after this, or maybe you're not that famous and you're simply traveling and visiting, and it'd be such a hassle, whether for business reasons, because you have to go somewhere after to take this food with you, and so you have to pretty much eat half of it and let the rest go in the trash. And think about it, like, you can't take it with you for whatever reason, and it's not really your fault, and maybe you want to be healthy, and that's something a lot of people don't think about. People waste food, but I mean, it's their money, you can do what they want, but health is another thing. It's like a double-edged sword. It's like, this guy wants to be healthy. It's not that he doesn't want to eat, he's not grateful for the food, and so he's full and he doesn't want to eat this unhealthy food. And so again, the lines blur depending on that. And even at home, that this sort of stuff happens, but at home you usually end up saving this food for later. But even throwing it out at home when you could put it back in the fridge, it's the same sort of thing. It's your money, you choose what to do with it. And so I think that just really blurs the lines, because a lot of people were brought up with different sort of philosophies on this, and it is quite a strange topic. And that's all I really want to say about it. I guess if you want my personal opinion, I think I will always be grateful for food, because I realize how more fulfilling and satisfying my life can be, realizing this how important and amazing this food is. It just makes my food taste better. When I've gone through stages where I have had very little food, or have starved, or stages where I really appreciate the food, or I've seen people who are having a very tough time. Uh, it helps my lifestyle out, and it really humbles me and brings me down to earth, and that's why I do it. But I think people can do what they want with their money, but they just have to watch out, especially if they have some sort of volatile income, because if they end up broke one day, then not being grateful early on could end up, knocking you down a few extra pegs in your self-esteem or ego, or just shock you dramatically when you're starving and you can't waste food anymore. But again, there's other people who have stable incomes and they never have to worry about it, and they choose to waste food. But I think if they do that consistently, I think unless you're filthy rich, it's just a waste of money. And little things like that pile up over time. Like if you just waste $5 or $10 of food every day, multiply that by 365 days per year, multiply that by 30 years, you do the math, guess how much money you've wasted, and multiply that by a few 4 or 5 people in your family who are doing the same thing. And this sort of small stuff adds up, just like cigarettes or other things. That's all I really want to say. And if you like this video, please hit the like button and share it with someone you think would very much like this video and be influenced by it, and would enjoy this sort of thing. And as always, hit the subscribe button. It's free, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. See you.